Coming up on show 707, GM reveal all new EVs, new battery tech and a new platform. Stick around, we'll tell you more. We're talking the Ultium batteries and their new propulsion system, an improvement in battery costs, upcoming launches and reveals, new cars and new Bolt. Lots to get through on a dedicated show today, all about GM's announcement. Very, very occasionally, we dedicate an edition of the podcast to one single story. It doesn't happen very often, but we're doing it today. Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to EV News Daily, Thursday, 5th of March. My name is Martyn Lee. I go through every EV story so you don't have to. And actually, there was one big story yesterday, and that was GM's big EV day. Well, thank you as always to myev.com for helping me make this show, produce it, get it on the air. Thank you to the gang at myev.com, busy building that totally free marketplace to help you buy and sell EVs in the USA. So GM have revealed new EVs, a new battery, a new platform. GM said today the heart of their strategy is what they call a modular propulsion system and a highly flexible third-generation global platform for all of their future EVs, and all powered by their own battery technology, their own cells, which they have developed themselves, and they have called the Ultium batteries. They're going to allow the company to compete for every customer in the market, they say, because their platform can be used in every segment of the market, whether it's affordable cars, luxury cars, work trucks, high-performance machinery. GM say they got your back with this new technology. Well, GM's new Ultium batteries are unique because they say the large format pouch-style cells can be stacked either vertically or horizontally inside the battery pack. So some EVs are made with little cylindrical cells, basically like big AA batteries, and some of them are done with kind of like big sandwich bags. If you can imagine like a big sandwich bag, zipped up and full of cell technology. That's maybe not the best way to describe it, but like that's kind of the best way to describe the pouch cells. This allows GM's engineers, by going for the pouch cell style route, to optimize battery energy storage and the layout for each of their vehicle designs. They have created their own cell technology. They've called it Ultium, and they say that they're going to be making batteries in the future for their future EVs from 50 kilowatts hours to 200 kilowatt hours. Well, 200 kilowatt hours is twice the biggest battery on the market at the moment, which is for the long-range Model S and the Model X. And that could enable GM's range, they say, to go 400 miles or even more, which is strange because isn't Tesla doing 390 miles with just 100 kilowatt hours? Look, let's come back to that. It was the first thing that I saw. I wasn't there, so maybe the headlines misrepresented what GM was saying, but the gist of it was, we'll make batteries up to 200 kilowatt hours that go up to 400 miles, 0 to 60 in as low as 3 seconds, they say. Motors have also been designed in-house and supporting front-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, and all-wheel drive, plus performance applications as well. The future EVs from GM are going to be Ultium powered and designed for level 2 DC fast charging as well. Most of them are going to have 400 volt battery packs, and they will charge at up to 200 kilowatts fast charging. That is all. I know everyone's obsessed with, bigger, better, who's got the biggest what's it in the gym changing rooms, but it's all about having something that is fit for purpose. And why do you want a battery that charges at 2,000 miles an hour if it's prohibitively expensive, if it's not reliable? Good technology that is very robust now can charge a good EV battery at 200 or 250 kilowatts. And really, how much faster do you want to go? I'm not saying that we don't always want little improvements to our vehicles. However, they are going to make an 800-volt battery system, an architecture that does resemble the Porsche Taycan. That is an 800-volt system, and that could be 350 kilowatt fast charging, but that is mainly going to be for their truck platform, where the batteries are going to be so much bigger. Well, GM's flexible, modular approach, they say, will drive economies of scale and create new revenue opportunities. They say that the battery costs at GM, their joint venture with LG Chem, is going to drive battery cell costs below $100 per kilowatt hour. That tends to be the number that's thrown around, because when you get down to $100 per kilowatt hour, that is a number which some people say will enable price parity with fossil-gobbling equivalent cars. Well, the cells use GM's own proprietary low-cobalt chemistry, and ongoing technological breakthroughs are going to drive the costs down even further below $100 in that partnership with LG Chem. Their all-new global platform, they say, will be making trucks, SUVs, crossovers, cars and commercial vehicles, and they're going to cover you for range and affordability and packaging, whatever you want. Capital efficiency, they say, means that GM can spend less capital to scale their EV business because they can leverage existing properties, land, buildings, tools, production equipment, body shops and paint shops. All of that is in place and ready to go. And they can reduce complexity as well. The vehicle and propulsion systems designed to minimize complexity in the next generation of EVs. They say that they're going to be less complex than conventional vehicles, but you and I knew that already. For example, GM plans 19 different battery and drive unit configurations. Well, that compares with 550 configurations of their internal combustion powertrain combinations available today. And they say that forecasters are expecting US EV volumes to double from 2025 to 2030, and GM believes that volumes will be materially higher as more EVs are launched. Well, again, no awards there for stating the bleeding obvious. New sources of revenue, they say, will be by vertically integrating battery cell manufacturer, and they can reach some sources of revenue beyond their own fleet and licensing their technology to other car makers. The first generation of GM's future EV program, they say, will be profitable. The initial programs will pave the way for further growth, and GM's technology can be scaled, they say, to meet customer demand at more than 1 million global sales by 2025, 1 million EVs coming from GM by 2025. So what's coming up? Well, Chevrolet, Cadillac, GMC, Buick, all launching new EVs, and they're going to start this year. The next new Chevrolet EV is going to be a new version of the Bolt, and that is launching later this year, followed in 2022 by the Bolt EUV. That's going to actually technically launch in summer 2021. The Bolt EUV is the first vehicle outside of the Cadillac brand to feature Super Cruise, the industry's hands-free driving technology for highways, which is going to be going into 22 of their EVs by 2023. The Cruise Origin is going to be a self-driving electric shared vehicle, and they're going to show that off. And they have been showing it off in San Francisco already, and it's going to be built, of course, on these Ultium batteries. There's going to be a Cadillac Lyriq. That is a luxury SUV. They're going to show it off in April. There's going to be more details about its launch then next month. The Ultium-powered GMC Hummer EV is going to be shown off in May. Production will begin at the end of next year at GM's Detroit assembly plant, and GM's first assembly plant, which is 100% dedicated to EV production. The new Ultium batteries the GM have been busy making, or will be busy making, will have the highest nickel and the lowest cobalt content in a pouch cell on the market. Large format pouch cells require less wiring, less plumbing, if you like, than lots and lots and lots of small cylindrical cells. The BMS, the battery management system, is going to be built in, and that eliminates 80% of the battery pack's wiring compared to what they did in the Bolts. Well, GM's joint venture with LG Chem to develop and mass-produce battery cells, getting down to $100 per kilowatt hour, will drive costs lower through an ongoing partnership together. New technologies under development will improve the charging specs that we've already said today, improve the cycling of the batteries, as in cycling it from full to empty, the range, the cost, and the battery life. Zero cobalt is their aim, and zero nickel cathodes. The use of electrolyte additives to heal cell scratches, if you like. Not quite self-healing batteries, but, you know, you get the idea. And solid-state batteries are part of their roadmap too. I'll pop a link to GM's media website where you can find out more details on there. Well, Jalopnik were one of the first ones to react, and they were having a look at the Detroit Free Press, who were scribbling down nuggets of information. They were having to use pen and paper because of all the people that got invited to GM's EV Day. all of the phones and tablets were confiscated, of course. No pictures, no cell phones, just a pen and paper. So they were scribbling down the details and saying that 11 of the vehicles shown, one of them was a render, 10 of them were physically present. And again, that's some of the kickback that I've seen about GM's presentation today to say, well, look, this is all well and good. There's other companies actually making EVs, and what did you actually make? Well, of course, the journalists couldn't take snaps with their own cameras, but 10 of the cars they're talking about have been made. Obviously concepts, prototypes if you like, but they were present. They've actually built a thing. 3 were dramatic Cadillacs, 2 were Buick SUVs, 4 were Chevys, and the first 2 GMC Hummers. That does imply there'll be more. They just called them the first 2. The third EV Caddy presented was an Escalade-sized SUV. Now that is big. And of course, nothing great about having an Escalade. It's a big, stinky, polluting car. But EV-powered? Oh, okay. Well, now that's a bit better. It's a three-row vehicle. They presented it with high-def screens that stretch along the entire width of the dashboard from pillar to pillar. GM really upping their screen game on future EVs. I'll pop a link to Jalopnik in the show notes if you'd like to read more. So how are you feeling about GM's announcement now that I'm 10 minutes into the podcast and I've given you the outline details of what they'll be doing? Are you inspired? Are you excited? Or are you one of those people, and they were on the internet today, that said, look, 20 years ago, this is the company that pioneered the skateboard-style design and did nothing with it. This is the company that a few years ago did exactly this presentation. They had their EV day, and they described how they were becoming an EV company. Fast forward to 2020, and we've just seen version 2 of that presentation. Now, I'm less cynical than that. I try to be an optimistic realist. So I'm always wanting to give people the benefit of the doubt, but I'm always wanting to look at, well, look, let's not get carried away with too many things. Let's always try and do some critical thinking, and let's always try and think for ourselves as well. It's why lots of people on this podcast disagree with me and tell me in the comments quite forthrightly sometimes, but that's cool. It's good to disagree, and it's good to have adult, grown-up conversations. I think this is very exciting news today, and I want to give GM the benefit of the doubt to say, let's give them the chance, let's give them a year to make stuff. No, they haven't reinvented the wheel, but they've done a really good job with this announcement so far. Let's get on in the second half of the podcast to some of the kind of analysis and interpretation of what happened. GM didn't just show off the new 2021 Bolts today. They did unleash the long-rumoured crossover version of the Bolt. That's what they call the EUV. And it's what some say should have been the car that the Bolts should have been back when it was first released. Well, Seth at Electric got an invite. He was there, so it's been interesting reading all of his coverage. He says, I'll start with the bad news. Since it's short, the Bolt EUV batteries are the same. The Bolt EUV batteries are going to be exactly the same as what the current technology, the version 2 platform that is basically the Bolt, 66 kilowatt hours. However, the vehicle is bigger and heavier. Therefore, the range will be shorter, maybe 245 miles on the EPA. And there won't be an all-wheel drive version. The Bolt EUV is still a couple of years away, and it's basically a stretched Bolt with new amenities. Sits at roughly the same height, but with a 3-inch longer wheelbase, a bigger trunk, more SUV-like front hood. The Level 2 charging is faster, and the bigger hood space allows for a bigger onboard charger, 11 kilowatt onboard charger, if you are charging on a 240 volt system. GM hasn't nailed down a delivery date, but plans to announce more in the summer. It will come after the 2021 Bolt, so maybe mid-2021, maybe we're 18 months away from seeing this crossover-style Bolt. I'll pop a link to Seth's article in Electric if you want to read more. So when GM spilled details on its new Ultium battery, it did reveal the capacity was going to be up to 200 kilowatt hours, and the range of vehicles equipped with such batteries will be up to 400 miles. Those numbers are both impressive on their own, but there was a slew of misleading headlines from some people who have agendas, some people who are lazy writers, some people who didn't join the dots up very well and said, well, Tesla's biggest battery is 100 kilowatt hours. GM just made a 200 kilowatt hour battery. Ergo, GM is now twice as good as Tesla. Trust me. I saw those articles today. I'm not going to retweet them. I'm not going to put links to them. I'm not going to give them any more clicks. But just trust me, they were out there. And it's great that people are talking about EVs, but it's frustrating at the same time because, no, those numbers don't add up. Eric at Inside EVs points out that 400 miles of range is an impressive figure, but Tesla has already said that the future cars in their lineup, which are about the same distance away from GM's, are going to go much, much further. In top spec form, the Cybertruck will do over 500 miles. 500 is a lot, but the new Tesla Roadster, that's 620. And Teslas today can actually do 390 miles on a 100 kilowatt hour battery. So saying that GM's 200 kilowatt hour battery is twice as good as Tesla, it misses the mark. Bigger isn't always better. It could be that their 200 kilowatt hour battery is destined for trucks and off-roaders and commercial vehicles, and that would make sense where those vehicles need a lot of power, but they won't necessarily need to ever go above 400 miles of range. You've got to try and think these things through, like I said. However, many of the articles today didn't do that. It was pretty much a table chair, knee-jerk response from people. It was either those that love Tesla or those that hate Tesla. There's very few in between, really, aren't there? Big cells was the other thing that I took away from this news today. The focus, according to Andy Oury, he's the lead engineer for battery packs, and he was saying that he wants to let the cell be all it can be, which does sound wonderful and reasonably lofty as well. Let the cell be all that it can be. Unleash its potential. Let's go to college, maybe travel the world, take a gap year, have fun. I don't know what I'm saying now. To that, pouch cells provide, he says, GM say that pouch cells, unlike the little cylindrical cells that other makers use, provide a packaging and design advantage and a cost advantage. GM chose to apply large format pouch cells with the widest electrode rolls in the industry, the fewest number of the largest cells, as he put it, to help cut down wiring and connectors within the modules. They are 100 amp hour cells, and that's the equivalent of about 20 of the cells that go inside a Model 3 and soon a Model Y, the little 2170s. And so GM saying that according to Green Car Reports, actually the company worked to clarify what the differences are at its presentation and why a skateboard design is limiting, because lots of people again said, oh, well, look, GM have just copied Tesla with the skateboard design, except they haven't. If you look at the pictures of what they had on stage, it was a battery pack, and they had some wheels around it, and they had some electric motors and stuff, but none of them were joined up, because the point the GM were trying to make today was we're not doing a skateboard design. We're not doing like VW have done with the ID3 platform, the MEB platform. They've done a skateboard, if you like, a chassis, big battery, big rectangular battery, wheels and all the gubbins on all four corners and the motors, and then they're putting different bodies on top of it. GM are saying, no, there's differences with what we're doing. Neither the entire third generation, or BEV3 as they call it, or the Ultium batteries are limited to one particular chassis or one particular floor plan. It means that cars and crossovers can continue being unibody, while the toughest electric trucks can be body on frame. They can all share components, but they don't have to sit on the same platform. Many of the cars and crossovers will be built with some shared body and chassis components, nevertheless. I'll pop a link to Green Car Reports in the show notes. Well, the cheaper batteries thing is what we'll finish off with today, because we're at 20 minutes already on the podcast, so let's wrap this up. The batteries currently powering the Bolt cost $145 per kilowatt hour, while the new Ultium batteries with LG Chem will come down to $100 per kilowatt hour by 2025. That is 5 years away. Whilst I am delighted about this news, and I love hearing about breakthroughs, about innovation, about things that are going to make the EVs that we drive in the future so much better, when you hear it's 5 years away, you start to get into the time frame. You know that we're always told that hydrogen is 10 years away. Like, 20 years ago, we were told that, we'll all be driving hydrogen fuel cell cars in 10 years' time. There was a Top Gear. There was a whole Top Gear. If you go back and search for a Top Gear, GM made something called, now someone's going to correct me. Was it called the Live Wire or something? Somebody who is an expert will correct me in the show notes. A very, very young-looking James May took this thing. It was a hydrogen car from GM about 20 years ago on Top Gear. A very young-looking Jeremy Clarkson as well. When they had it back in the studio, they were both enthusing about it, saying, this is the future. In 10 years' time, we'll all be driving hydrogen cars. That was about 20 years ago. Hydrogen it's always 10 years away. In 2030, it will be 10 years away. So when we start talking about, we're going to achieve this price in 5 years' time, it's just, in my brain, my tiny brain starts to get a bit borderline. That's quite a long way away, given the pace of EV development that you and I talk about all the time, every day on the podcast. It's happening so quickly. So you have to try and think, okay, what are they working on? Well, it's a proprietary low cobalt chemistry. We know that much. GM knows that ongoing tech and manufacturing breakthroughs are going to drive the costs down, says Clean Technica. Now, Clean Technica were there in person as well, but the batteries, which are going to be made at the new LG Chem and GM plant in Ohio, are going to have an initial capacity every year of 30 gigawatt hours. GM will then reach their goal of 1 million EVs produced annually in 2025, and it's when they're making 1 million EVs a year that they get that low price point. That scale, that efficiency, equals reduced costs. That's when they'll be making 250 million cells a year. The modular propulsion system and the global EV platform on the Ultium batteries will enable GM to make cars for every segment, says Clean Technica, including some very low-cost entry-level cars. Clean Technica link in the show notes if you want to read more. So that's our podcast today. How are you feeling now after part 2? I'm feeling good about it. I think it's an amazing thing that GM are doing. It got a lot of press. Okay, not Cybertruck smashed windows levels of press, but lots of people were talking about it today. All right, let's put a little caveat on the end, and that's not to rain on anyone's parade. Tesla will be having their own investor battery day next month in April, and there's a bunch of stuff that they've been working on and buying companies. They've been buying companies like Maxwell that had a bunch of technology that can make a big step in terms of Tesla's technology, but also they bought another company, a Canadian company, that is experts at systems and making and the way that cells are produced. So whilst all the headlines go for things like kind of chemistries and solid state batteries and changing the chemistry, actually Tesla have been behind the scenes working very hard on how do you make batteries more efficiently, which is what has been pointing everybody towards saying that they're going to become a cell maker in their own right and not relying on Panasonic and the others who've been making the cells. And what's the cost that they can do it for? And we'll only find out all of the answers to those questions in just over a month's time. So let's park this one. Let's be excited about it. Let's thank GM for sharing so many details. Let's hope that they do crack on as quick as possible. And let's see what the team over the road at Tesla can come up with in a few weeks' time when they have their own battery day. And then we can reflect and look back at both announcements with hindsight. Let's talk about question of the week this week. I'm waving a magic wand for you, and I'm installing a charger wherever you want, any speed, any type of charger. But where is it? And what is it? And why is it going there? Tell me about your personal stories of even if you don't have an EV yet, when you do get one, where would a charger make your life easier? So, email me, hello@evnewsdaily.com, or leave a comment on the YouTube show. Thank you to 241 patrons of this podcast. Without you, I couldn't do this. Current premium partners: Phil Roberts of Electric Future, Brad Crosby, Avid Technology, and Brightsmith for clean tech talent. We've got 2 new names, 2 new premium partners to announce very soon. New partner of the show as well, which is awesome. And some just some more support coming on Patreon, which just it blows me away every day. And thank you very much if you are one of those supporting. Patreon is patreon.com/EVNewsDaily. By the way, it's how we make this show. There's no need for you to have a look at that, and I'll always do this for free. But, it's there if you want to have a look. There are 716 previous episodes. If you can leave a little review on Apple Podcasts, it helps grow the show. Have a wonderful day. I will catch you tomorrow. And remember, there's no such thing as a self-charging hybrid.